A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus said, "Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet in the name of a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and whoever welcomes a righteous person in the name of a righteous person will receive the reward of the righteous. And whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones in the name of a disciple, truly I tell you, none of these will lose their reward." Today we are acknowledging, recognizing, celebrating James Hannington, that is Bishop James Hannington, and the Martyrs of Uganda. And this is an episode that took place in the late 19th century. Bishop Hannington died in October of 1885. And here's just a bit of him again from James Kiefer. Among the new nations of Africa, new at the time, Uganda is the most predominantly Christian. And mission works began there in the 1870s with the favor of King Mutesa, who died in 1884. However, his son and successor opposed all foreign presence, including the Christian missions. So James Hannington, born 1847, was sent out from England in 1884 by the Anglican Church as a missionary bishop of Eastern Equatorial Africa. As he was traveling toward Uganda, he was apprehended by emissaries of the king. He and his companions were brutally treated, and a week later, on the 29th of October, 1885, most of them were put to death. Hannington's last words were, "Go tell your master that I have purchased the road to Uganda with my blood." Then, the first native martyr, that is, the first person native in Uganda, was the Roman Catholic Joseph Baliku Dembe, who was beheaded after having rebuked the king for his debauchery and for the murder of Bishop Hannington. And then on the 3rd of June in 1886, so less than a year after Bishop Hannington died, a group of 32 men and boys, teenagers, 22 Roman Catholics and 10 Anglicans were burned at the stake, most of them young pages in Mwanga's household, in the king's household, from their headman to the 13-year-old Kizito, who went to his death laughing and chattering. These and many other Ugandan Christians suffered for their faith then and in the next few years. So that is a pretty grisly story and hard to hear, hard to read. There is something in it, though, that the church has held up since the time of that. It's something, if you just go and look up the Martyrs of Uganda, you'll see that actually in modern day Uganda, there are Christians who still cherish this story and this example of courage and faithful witness to one's faith, and also the fearlessness of all those in the king's court who went to their death rather than give up their Christian affiliation and identity. So what do we make of that in our day? It's interesting. I wonder if you would be surprised, as I have been surprised every time I relearn it. The first time I heard it, I had to look it up because I didn't believe it. But I had a colleague say to me once, actually a colleague from another faith tradition, and he said, do you know the religious tradition that has the most death for their faith, most people killed for their faith every year in current times? And I took a guess or two, and he said, no, it's Christians. Christians are the ones worldwide who are most often put to death for their faith in 2024, 2023. Look it up. And it's something that's a bit shocking to the North American Christian conscience, and consciousness, which we think a lot of, what's really difficult for us is, having bad coffee in church, or not having the right times, or, having to compete with too many activities for the kids. We have a pretty exquisitely tuned sense of what can make church difficult for us. And, and I don't exempt myself from that. This is not me saying that about other people. We, as a culture in North America, I think are pretty quick to find ourselves inconvenienced by our faith. And so one of the things this story does for me as a corrective to that is to be reminded that these are not only people in the past centuries and other contexts far from here, but people who even in our own day, find themselves at risk when they do choose to gather to celebrate the Holy Mysteries together, to share communion. People who know that they're putting their lives at risk to gather in public spaces and in public buildings or in secret spaces in homes. And yet there's something so compelling about their faith, that they do it anyway. I encourage us all to think about Bishop Hannington, his willingness as a man in his 30s or 40s, life cut very short, obviously, but feeling that his life had been spent in a way that was meaningful within his own context of faith and meaningful to those around him. Certainly in the country of Uganda, where his name is still revered amongst the Christian community, well worth reminding him and all the faithful martyrs of Uganda who went with him, really, in effect, as they made their stand for their faith, as they refused to deny what they knew about God through Jesus. And as they said, as today's gospel said, if you try to hold on to your life and all your things and all your relationships, but you turn your back on God, you don't have much left. So may we not be faced, I hope we won't ever be faced with some extreme choice in that sense. But if we were to find ourselves in that kind of position, I would hope that we would have the courage and the strength, the joy, and the proclamation of our faith to do whatever the moment required. May God be with you this day, and may God bless you and keep you this day and always. Amen.